Hello, BookTube. I have a last week in BookTube for you for this Monday, looking back at the last 7 or so days that I've watched BookTube. Not meant at all to be comprehensive. I watch a lot of BookTube. Only a tiny fraction of it is in this video. I'll leave links to the channels that I'm talking about, because you should go and subscribe to all of them. But just a few little bits of interest that I thought we'd start with news. Bigger BookTube things, like for instance, Brett Benner's channel. He fantastic. His channel is just fantastic. I've gotten so many recommendations from him talking about new releases. It's another interesting thing about his channel is that he talks about a lot of new releases. Not every channel does that, but he has taken up a challenge called 10 Before the End. 10 books that are on his shelves or on his TBR that are really calling out to him louder than any other 10 books to finish the year. Not, in my case, to finish the weekend, but to finish the year. I thought it was fascinating to know which ones were pulling at him. So I'll leave a link to that video. And of course, with a lot of these videos, I also want to know what you think. What your version of these things would be. What are your 10 before the end? And of course, there was Liam's Lyceum. I'll leave a link to his channel down below. Commemorating the Day of Might. Today, October 23rd, is the Day of Might. This is a day to celebrate sword and sorcery fiction. How are you celebrating? Are you celebrating? Have you lit your red candle? Have you decanted a tankard of the root of beer? The beer of root? Are you toasting? To sword and sorcery fantasy. Have you read any sword and sorcery fantasy? It's. I think I've been under the impression for a couple of years now, since it actually gave birth, that there ought to be a month of Might, not just a day of Might. And there's finally in this section there's a new BookTube event, Remember December, which is coming out next month. That is all. It's meant to celebrate rereading. The phenomenon of rereading, which non-readers find our habit of reading for recreation confusing anyway, but rereading they find just bewildering, absolutely bewildering. The whole phenomenon was given its best, I think its best comic send-up in the television show Seinfeld, where Jerry Seinfeld, the main character, just does not understand why anyone would reread a book. Nevertheless, it's extremely popular to do. It's long since overdue to have an event of its own. I do an enormous amount of rereading. Not just the books in this room that I love and go back to all the time, not just the suggestions that I get from BookTube, but also in my line of work, in my profession. I get an electronic advanced copy of a book or a paperback advanced copy of a book. Oftentimes, that will not be the only time that I read that book. Often I will read it first in an advanced copy with no pencil in hand, no note-taking, no cross-referencing sources or checking up on possible plagiarism or anything like that, just for the readerly impression of the book. Where are the slow parts? What is this? What emotional response is this provoking above all others? And then, when I get the finished copy, I will often, very often, reread the thing, with my critical hat on. So I would think it's safe to say that out of the 100% pie chart of my annual reading, probably a good 40% is rereading. Which is why I think it's perfectly understandable that I'm one of the co-hosts for Remember... no, that's right, I'm not. No. The hosts are Novella, Bouqins and Books, MsReads A Lot, Criminolly, Roz at Scantily Detailing About the Books, Aaron Facer, and Shelly Swearingen. And I'll leave links to some of their announcement videos. It looks like a fun video. It looks like a fun event to co-host, but only if you were a real dyed-in-the-wool rereader. I mean, you wouldn't be asked to co-host Remember December if you did more rereading than all the co-hosts put together. No, that wouldn't be a good reason at all. Anyway, I don't have to change my status as a BookTube outcast, a BookTube pariah, in order to appreciate events. Remember December is a really good event. If you have always been meaning to do a little more rereading, now you know. Now's the time. You'll have great company. Then we'll move on to reviews. Review videos on BookTube notoriously do not do well in the short term. They are a consistent earner over time. because every stranger that comes to YouTube is going to want to know, I have reason X, Y, or Z to wonder about this particular book. Maybe they might even know that BookTube exists, but they'll search for that title and find your reviews. So your review videos do have long-term life, but not short-term life. Because in the short term, your subscribers and random visitors to your channel will look at the title of your book review, say, I have no interest in that book, and nor do I think I will ever read it, and skip the video. It was a little bit of a shame, but we have some. I picked 3 really good ones this time around. Juan at JustJuanReader reviewed Catriona Ward's book, The Last House on Needless Street. It was a baffled, negative review, and I was nodding in sympathy the whole time. I did not understand why that book was embraced, and when it has so many flaws. So then to continue the theme of surprising negative reviews, Grammaticus Books reviewed The Three-Body Problem, which is an absolute darling. On BookTube, on Goodreads, on Amazon, you can barely find anybody or pay anybody to say a negative word about it. And Grammaticus Books did not like it, thought that it was really bad, pointed out a number of different ways that it was really bad. I thought it was kind of ironic. It was almost like I wanted to welcome him to the club, because in his video, he says that The Three-Body Problem is lousy, that it's objectively bad, that he uses that word, and then he goes through the objective metrics of why you would say that. Is character X consistent at all throughout the book? Is plot development Y followed up on? Is anything made of it? We're not talking about whether or not you like the book. We're not talking about the actual subjective parts of reading. We're talking here about the objective parts of reading, which if you say there aren't any, then what are any of us doing here? And I thought it was kind of ironic that although he did that all throughout his video, sure enough, he got at least one comment that I saw saying, oh, this is entirely subjective. Odd that you'd call it an objective criticism when it's entirely subjective. No. But I'll leave a link to his video. I'm sure that he would like 50 or even 100 subscribers. I'm sure that he would. And then finally, Joe Spivey and his water bottle. It's not really a review. He's doing a bunch of titanic works of Victorian literature for Victober, and he did In Memoriam by Tennyson, and didn't really give it a review so much as a good, ecstatic appreciation. Certainly that counts. That's a type of review. There's not much negative that you can say about In Memoriam. So if you are unfamiliar with Tennyson, if you're unfamiliar with his great poem, you might want to go to this video and give it a listen. And then we'll go to a section that I just called Views. Just randomly called Views, where it's just highlight videos of one kind or another. I mentioned here Hannah's Books. Hannah at Hannah's Books did a video, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, a feminist text. I don't know where you will fall on that question by the time you get to the end of her video, but listening to her talk about the Brontes and about the mechanics, the ins and outs, the highlights of their books, especially 2 in comparison, is a delight. An absolute delight, so I didn't want you to miss it. Another thing I don't want you to miss is a tiny little thing. I don't really know what it is, but it made me laugh for a good 10 minutes, and I'm honored to be a part of it in a nefarious way. It's from Back Away from the Donkey, and he did a video wondering, this is a short little thing, wondering if you can guess who the werewolf is. Who is the werewolf among the various suspects that he shows you in the video? Which one will be the werewolf? Can you guess? Then also, speaking again of Sandy at MsReads A Lot, she did a terrific video about 5 science fiction series that may, in fact, be making her a fan of the genre. And I found it fascinating. I wondered immediately about all the rest of you. I wondered, okay, has this happened to you? Not just with science fiction, but with any genre. Can you pinpoint the book or series that made you into a fan of a genre that you otherwise ignored? I think that transformation is fascinating. I love it when it happens. I love it when it happens to me, but I also love to see it when it happens to others. I can't get enough of stories like that. And hers is one of the only ones I've seen captured on film. So, and then we can finish up on a somber note, a sobering note, but in a way also a wonderful note. Sarah at the Bookish Knitter, in addition to all of her other reading updates and whatnot, made an incredibly brave video updating everybody about her health. And it's not good news. And that is the grim part. The amazing part is the support in her comments, the support that has flooded her way since that video. That has got to count as a silver lining to any negative news. That just has to. That in this little community, this weird little community that we have made, we are with you for you, not just for what you're reading and what your star rating system means, but for you. You have to move and need help moving. If you have teaching issues that you need to work through, or health problems, the video is touching in its own ways. I especially liked how even Sarah, she's just so indefatigably a bookish person that she couldn't even quite get through the whole of a health update without starting to talk just a little about books. I feel the same way. They are the ultimate refuge. That was great on its own, but seeing the support in those comments was just wonderful. Just absolutely wonderful. So, although it's a bit of a somber video, I want to leave a link to it just in case you missed it. And that's it. That's very, very, very quick. 10 minutes of Last Week in BookTube. These will get longer and more elaborate. I didn't want to skip one today when I've just recently revived this. So, this segment, if I do it next week, it will be longer and more involved. But for now, those are some things that I've watched recently that I really liked and that I think you might really like, or at least find interesting. So I'll leave links to everything down below, and I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.